How much can they spend every month in retirement? That's what a son wants to know for his parents. He says, my parents are in their 60s with 500,000 saved for retirement and will get 5,000 a month in Social Security. How much can they spend every month? Let's look at the actual number. There's a spreadsheet we have. We can run these numbers. 500,000 is our beginning balance. And they're going to get 5,000 from Social Security. And if we take it in the very first year, we'll run it for different years, but let's just do this. So what we want to see is, obviously they're getting 5,000 a month from Social Security. If we put this at 5,000, they'll be taking nothing out. So we're going to watch this percentage withdrawal right here. As we raise that up, we're going to see how the numbers look. Let's go ahead and go to 6,000, which would be a 2.4% withdrawal rate. We know as long as we keep it below 4%, we're going to be in fine shape. The only time we wouldn't in the last 100 years, which is what we do on this channel, we look at the last 100 years using the S&P 500, is 1929 numbers, because 1929 was the beginning of the Depression. There was 4 down years, down another year, down 35, down 3 more years. That's the only time we've ever run into a problem with the 4% rule. Right now we're at 2.4%. Let's go ahead and go to 7,000 a month. Again, 5,000 has come from Social Security. That's a 4.8%. Let's go down to 6,800. 60, looks like 6,700 is pretty close to 4% rule. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and update this for every single year, which includes the 1929 years. But let's go ahead and update this. Since we're a little bit over the 4% rule, there's 2 times in the last 100 years, 1929, 1930, we'd run out of money in 20 years, but 97.5% of the time, you'd have no problem. This is the actual graph. Those are those 2 years right there. Every other scenario, you're just fine. Even the year 2000, which sometimes you run into problems because 2000 was a bad decade also. But with these numbers, the 4.08%, it would be just fine. And 1928 starts running into an issue if we go 30 years. Let's actually look at that. 19, be down to 90,000 after 25 years, and you don't quite make it to 30 years. But those are the only times in the last 100 years that you would have been running into an issue withdrawing 4.08%, which is 6,700, knowing that 5,000 is coming from Social Security. Now, what we need to do is, let's say that they're not ready to take Social Security quite yet. How long would their money last if we, and is this going to worsen if we, right now we got a 97.5% success rate. Well, let's do one other thing. Let's say they're 60 and they want to take it at 65. He said they're in their 60, but let's say they're 60 and they want to take it at age 65. So that'd be the beginning of the 6th year. Now, those first few years, let's go back in 1925. The first few years, by 6,700 you're taking out, and not until the beginning of the 6th year does a 5,000 kick in, but it wouldn't be 5,000 anymore, so we need to go ahead and run those numbers. What we do is go to the Social Security right here. We change this to 5,000, which is what the says right now, and we're going to look at it at age 65. Actually, I'm going to do 67. I should do 65 here. So this 5,000 will have grown to 5,384. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and rate it to 5,657. So 5,657. 5,657. Now we're going to go ahead and run the numbers. Those first 5 years from age 60 to 65, it's a 16% withdrawal rate. But once we kick the Social Security in the 6th year, then the drops down to 4.52% withdrawal rate. Let's see how the numbers might work out for that. This is eye-opening. Unfortunately, if they wait 5 years to start taking the Social Security, these numbers here, the 6,700 is knocking down this 500,000 so fast that in 51% of the time in the last 100 years, it actually would run out of money in less than 20 years. You can see all these years that would happen. So it looks like that Social Security is really crucial, taking that from the very beginning. If we go with 6,700, now if we go with something like 5,500 and don't take Social Security initially, That's a 13.2% withdrawal rate on the first 5 years, but that drops down to 1%. Let's see how that might change these numbers. Right now, it's a huge failure rate waiting to take Social Security at 6,700. Let's go down to 5,500 and see how that might change. That made a huge difference. Now you just have basically a 10% failure rate. 90% of the time you'd just be fine after 20 years. Here's the graph. Just during the Depression years and during the year 2000, around the year 2000, every other year you'll be just fine. So that makes a big difference when they start taking Social Security with this 500,000. Because if you start taking out much more than 5,000 a month, that's when you run into problems. 5,500 would be just fine, knowing that 5,000 is going to kick in after just 5 years. That's what we do this channel. We can run all kinds of different numbers. Let's do one other thing. Let's say there's 62 now, and they're going to take it to 65. So that's the beginning of the fourth year. Got to go back here to Social Security and find out what that would be after 5384. 5384. 5384. It's really nice about Social Security. It goes up by the COLAs. Let's go ahead and update this now and see what the numbers might look like. Let's go to, let's see here, 5,700. Let's run those numbers. Actually, 6,000. So that made a huge difference. Take it in the fourth year rather than the sixth year. You only have a 6.2% failure rate. Here's the graph. Depression years and right around the year 2000, every other scenario is just fine. So it really is key when they start taking this Social Security. If they're taking it from day one, they have no problem taking out 6,700. Let's go back to that real quick. Just run the numbers. Update this. Obviously, you're just withdrawing 1,000 of the 6,000 because you're getting 5,000 from Social Security. Let's go ahead and update this. We already looked at the 67. Let's go up to 7,000, which would be a 4.8% withdrawal rate. There's 5,000 be coming from Social Security, 2,000 will be coming from your nest egg. Let's go ahead and run those numbers. It's like they have a 95% success rate. The only problems would be the Depression years and also right around the year 2000, every other scenario. So if they're taking in Social Security initially at 5,000 a month, they could withdraw 7,000 a month, or that's what their expenses, 7,000, of which 2,000 is coming from their nest egg and 5,000 is coming from Social Security. So how much can they live on? How much can they, again, the question was, how much can they spend every month in retirement? Looks like $7,000 if they take the Social Security from the very first year. Then they'd have a 95% success rate of that money lasting. But again, that's what we do in this channel. We run all kinds of different numbers. We didn't even mess around with the asset allocation. Let's do a 60-40 asset allocation and update that. Instead of a 5% failure rate, you got a 4% failure rate. So that helped a little bit. Do one more thing, do a 70-30. Looks like it's still 4% failure rate. Again, this is a success rate of 96%. The only problem, again, was during the Depression years and around the year 2000. Let's do one more thing. We're running this at a 3% COLA. What if we just do a 2% COLA, leaving the asset allocation the same and everything else the same? Let's see how a 2% COLA instead of a 3% COLA might affect these numbers to maybe get basically 100% success rate using numbers. Going down to a 2% COLA, look at the difference. You get a 99% success rate, withdrawing $7,000, of which taking your Social Security from the very first year of $5,000, $2,000 a month, increasing by 2% a year, and the money would last almost every time unless we would have a year like 1929. That's kind of iffy around the 1930, but even the year 2000 now, your money would last. But again, folks, that's what we do in this channel. We run all kinds of different numbers, try to answer questions. How much can they spend every month in retirement? The son wants to know. Looks like $7,000 a month if they're taking their Social Security right from the beginning of this 5,000. Again, that's what we do in this channel. We love running numbers for people. If you want me to run numbers for you, just ask in the comment section. Again, our channel is called $1 Million Made Easy, and we make spreadsheets to answer questions like this. Please consider subscribing to this channel. We run all kinds of different numbers for people, point out all kinds of financial observations that you really need to know as an investor. Please share this channel, like the videos, and thanks so much for watching.